All right, this tutorial we have here, we are going to be building the balsa wood tower in Fusion 360, or a simple version of that. We're going to start with some basic Fusion terminology. Once you've opened up Fusion for the first time, you make your team. You're presented with this page over here, which is very similar to a regular, let's check, are we recording? Yes. Very similar to many applications you've seen. In the top left-hand corner, you have your file thing where you can start new designs and also save designs. When you open up new designs, they open up in tabs over here. And to look at your old designs you want to open, if you press the panel over here on the left, it should load up your recent designs you've done. All right. So like a recent design I've done is a tower, and we're going to try to build a similar version of this tower. Maybe a simplified it based on time, but a simplified version of this tower over here we're going to try to build in Fusion 360. When I open this up, we see over here in this tab, it says 2024 Tower Concept V4. Another way we can start a new design, we can press this plus button over here, just like in Google Chrome. It starts a new tab, which is a new design. Now, Fusion is an additive CAD software, which means you start with something like a shape, or start with a 2D shape, and you turn that 2D shape into 3D, and then you can modify that 3D shape. So that's what we call by additive. When we're doing our tower, now our tower design, we have that box that at the bottom that our tower has to be larger than. So to demonstrate how Fusion works, maybe the box we'll do that first. The first thing you're going to have in Fusion is over here in the top left-hand corner, create a sketch. A sketch is that 2D shape that we're going to start to make our drawings. So if I just press 2D sketch, as soon as I press it, I'm presented with these shapes on the board. These represent the planes, the X, Z, Z, Y, and YX planes. And that means they're just 2D flat surfaces. That's basically saying, where's your sheet of paper where you want to draw this shape? I want to start from the bottom, so I'm going to press this one down here, this plane down here. So now notice how it went from 3D to 2D. I'm going to draw my 2D shape now. I want to draw the box, so I am going to press this line tool over here. I am going to press it in the center, and now as I go, see how I'm dragging out this line. I can make this 2D line. Now, we're just going to make a box, which is a very simple shape. So if I hold my arrow going up, we see how it says 90 degrees. And see how this box on the left has 41.724. I can type numbers in there. And Fusion 360 would work with that. Now, our box has dimensions of 150 by 150 by 100. So I can type 150 in here and press enter. And then it's automatically going to make that shape 150 millimeters. And then I can press this line, I can go over here, I can do the same thing. If I have my line close to like the grid or dots that exist, it's going to try to snap to that. It's called snapping to grid. Alternatively, I can go in here and I can type in the angle. If I want it to be at 1 degree, I can do that. But I want it to be at 0 degrees. And this one's going to be 150 as well. 150. And then I can, I want to finish the box. If I bring this down, do you see how there's this little blue thing showing up? Like there's the blue right angle that you just see there. And as we bring it down, as I try to click it to one of the dots, there's this other blue box. That's the app trying to be smart and say, look, I think you're trying to do a 90-degree line there, but it's showing it in blue. So it's showing what it's trying to predict. If I bring this to almost halfway of the other line, is it going to do something? No. But as I go down, so for example, if I wanted to do a line in the middle, if I go up, it does that little triangle. So what that little triangle means that this line is halfway through that line. So it's going to help you later if you want to build to be smart with that drawing. We can just close off this drawing over here and watch what happens to the square right now. The color of the center of the square is white-ish. If I go and I bring this over here, what color is the center of the square? Blue. Bluish, yeah. That means Yeah, it's weird on the screen because you're at an angle. It might be reddish for you, but it's definitely blue on the YouTube or yeah. So what you've done there is the app is telling you you now have a closed surface, right? So this is like an actual 2D object that's completed. So we can now, it's saying this shape, if you want, you can turn this into 3D later because you can't turn, like just a line can't go 3D because it's not going to have any depth to do that 3D-ness. We can finish a sketch. Can I move it? I don't think I can. Modify. The last thing you want to do is you might want to move this shape. No, we won't. We'll deal with that later. So if I press OK, so I press the top right-hand corner, finish sketch. So now I'm back in the 3D world. If I go over here to the top right-hand corner and I press this home button, what that's going to do is it's going to bring it, so it's going to show the whole image in your screen. Relevant for if you're constantly zooming in and out or you want to go back to 3D. I might also want to press layout grid. I might want to see some 3D lines so I know relatively what I'm looking at. So I've got to turn this into a cube or a rectangular prism. So I've done the sketch. So now the most common tool you're going to use in Fusion is the extrude button. What that does is it gets a 2D shape and it turns it into a 3D shape. Think of in maths, you have a triangle and you turn it into a triangular prism. Yeah, or a rectangular prism, hexagonal prism, polygon into a polygon prism. That's what it's doing. So we press the extrude button, and then because this was the last thing that we made, it's going to assume you want it to do that. But it's not always going to be that. Sometimes we want to pick a different shape. Over here we have this new panel that's opened up here on the right. This is saying what options you want for extrude. Let's say we don't actually know what to press for this one. Profiles, that's the 2D shapes that are colored in blue that you want to make 3D. So right now it says select. If I hover over it and I click it, that's the profile I want to extrude. Start for all of your drawings, you're going to be starting from the profile. You want it to go in one direction. Distance, we can put in the distance here. So how high do we want this box to be? We want it to be 100 millimeters, so we just type 100 in here. We don't want tamper angle, we just want ours to be at right angle. And if we press enter, done. We've done our first box on Fusion 360. Now if we press this home button again, look what happens. It zooms in. The home button in the top right hand corner will always fit your whole model in it once you've made. We can also use this square over here. We can press the different views. I can press front and it will go show this view over here if I want to see that. Or right. Or I can click and hold the square with the mouse and I can start to do all different type of rotation for if I want to look around my objects. So now that we've done that bottom square, let's start making more of the tower. So when we're making the tower, we're going to go back to sketch and we want to press this face down here. So we want to make, we want to do the same thing we did before. We want to click this shape over here. We want to go out 5 millimeters, 5 millimeters. But this is now getting boring having to press the button 4 times. So instead of that, we can start to experiment with the other tools we have here in Fusion. So we have rectangles. We can make rectangles based off 2 points, based off 3 points. Later, I don't think you're going to use much circles for your tower, but as you do other projects, like you have the cars that you're going to do at the end of the year, we're going to use circles for the wheels with that. So let's say rectangle, a 2-point rectangle. I click where the first point is. That's the first point. And then you pick where the second point is, which will be this point over here. And luckily it's 5 by 5 on my grid, but I could also type 5. And then I don't even need to move my mouse. I can press the tab button and it automatically goes to the next square. And also notice the first 5. See how there's a padlock on there now? That means because I put 5 in there before, if I move my mouse around, it's always going to keep it at 5 millimeters, that first one. That's very useful if you want to draw something at like an angle. So you put in the angle and then you can drag it however far you want because the angle will have the padlock in it if you write 60 degrees, for example. Once you type the number in the box and you press tab, then it will be padlocked, and it's not going to adjust. It's not going to rely on the mouse to adjust its location at that point. So this one over here, also press 5, enter, finish thing. Let's go back to home. So now I'm going to do the extrude function again. So we'll extrude, and this one over here, I'm just making up a tower here. So we'll do 120 high for this. Cool. Then we need to start working on the top of the tower, all right? So we're going to extrude from the top of the tower downwards, if that makes sense. So what we need is somewhere to sketch up at the top of the tower. So when we did our first sketches, see how we had these are they yellow for you? You can see them as yellow? These are what are called like construction planes. So they're going to help you construct other parts of your drawing. We need to make one that's up at the top of the tower. So what we're going to do is get out of sketch, and we're going to go to construction, and we're going to make an offset plane, which is the plane we have down here. We want to make another one up high, and that offset is like a distance. That's like a technical term we use in engineering. Offset plane, we press that. We say which plane? Well, we want it to be this flat plane at the bottom, but we want it to be higher. So now I can drag it, right? And you see I can get this plane over here, but I want to be somewhat specific. Do you remember what height our tower has to be? At least 30. So for my design, I'm going to put 30. You might put 30.05, right? Give you a bit of whatever, a bit of safety. But also for this technical drawing, you can do 30, it's fine. So 300, right? Because we're dealing in millimeters. But you did say 30. 30 what? Centimeters. Fusion is smart enough that if you write 30 centimeters, it will automatically do that. Fusion is also smart enough that if I say 15 plus 15 centimeters, no, that's 15 millimeters plus 15 centimeters. So you can put equations in Fusion 360. It should. Maybe that's a bit too much. I can 150 plus 150. You can put simple equations in Fusion, and it will do that. Where this is usually used for is not so much addition, but let's say if you had a tower that was 275, and you wanted to put something in the midpoint, you can just divide that by 2, and then you know what that length is. Or you can divide it by 3, and you can know what that length is. That's what the equation thing is pretty good for. All right, 300, enter. So now I want to start sketching over here. Again, create sketch. Now we can press this new plane. Now we're up above this. We need to draw, we want our tower to be in the center of this, right? So before we start drawing our tower, we need to know, let's draw the, what's it called? The cap, so we know what the maximum size is. So the cap, we'll do a 2-point rectangle. The issue we have is we don't know where this center is. So what we can do is we're going to go to project and include and press project. What this does is in the 3D space over here, see how this block is at the bottom, right? But we're drawing up here. So the block isn't actually attached to that drawing, so I can't use it to guide any of my drawings. But if I hover over it, see how it has that red line? So what we're saying is, from that view over there, what you see, I want to use that shape up here. So if I press enter, I click it, see now we have a purple line around here. And if I go back to the top, we can now use this purple line for our calculations. Then we can do a line. And if we do this, now we should have, that should be the middle point of where our tower is. So we can go rectangle, rectangle center. If we hover the line over here with that blue triangle, we can now make a rectangle. And the shape of this rectangle, the cap is 75, 75 by 85. So 75, 75. So you have to be at least that much. Okay. And We also need to make it a wider object because we have to know that we're inside it. So what we're going to do is we are going to make, I want to go back and I finished that sketch, but I realized I need to, the part that I'm going to extrude is not the part I want. I want slightly outside that part. So Fusion, you can go back and you can edit your sketches. If we go over here, if we right click, down the bottom, this is the history plane, which is all the what you've done so far in your thing. And so the last thing I did was a sketch, and if I press edit sketch, I'm back to editing this sketch now. I'm going to press the offset tool, and I'm going to press this rectangle, and what it does is it means I can make another line around it, perfectly like parallel to it. If I make that 10 millimeters, and I press OK, so now I have this shape that when I go and extrude, I want to extrude this and this, and I'm going to drag it down. So notice how it's a negative, just because it's just going downwards. That's fine, we understand what that means. Minus 85, that is the cone that our thing has to fit inside of. So press OK. Now, it's also weird because I do want to look inside it. So we can use some functions over here to change what our objects look like. If we right-click body, I can go over here and I can change the opacity control. Because, Fusion makes stuff and they call them bodies, is these 3D objects. So the first square we made was this one, body number 1. Then we made this stick over here, that will be body number 2. And this one is body number 3. If I right-click that and go to opacity, opacity is basically like how transparent is it. So if I make it 30%, the object's mostly transparent. So I can see my design going in, but I know my design has to fit inside there. Then, all right, let's go back to sketching. One thing that happened is that sketch disappeared. When I used that plane disappeared. Usually Fusion tries to remove the stuff that you're not looking at anymore to clear cutter. For example, if I open up this tab and look at the sketches, all the sketches we've done still exist in Fusion, right? But if they all start showing up, it starts to get very messy. So Fusion thinks as soon as you're done with it, it tries to hide it. But to show it again, if it's a sketch or a construction or a body, if you open it up and you press the I, you can show it. For example, over here, the plane that we use to do the cap, we need to use that again because we have to start to do the sticks going down. So we're going to click the plane to show it. Now, let's go sketch this plane. I'm going to hide this body just so we can see. So we've got to be inside here. Let's make some squares. Say I want this over here. Oh, okay, this corner. 5 by 5. There we go, 5 by 5. This square is clearly inside here, so we know this is going to be fine for our rules. And then I can extrude this, and I want this one to be minus 100. All right, slightly more. Cool. I've also hid this body because I don't think we need this body anymore because we don't need it to be in the way. So we don't need this body and we don't need this cap anymore. So now we have this for our sketch. We have to link these two together. This is the part that I found as the hardest part in Fusion, how to make a line. An axis through 2 points. Okay, so we're going to press an axis through 2 points. If we press this point over here and this point over here, we should have this line, and then we can construction. We need to a face, not a face and a point, along a path. I'm going to pause this right now. All right, so I figured out a way to do it. The difficulty we have is we're drawing at like a weird angle, and one of the limits of fusion is you have to be very precise with what you're saying. So what we're going to do, we are going to construct a plane. Instead of doing it with the axis, we're going to do it with a plane through 3 points. So the points we're going to pick is we're going to pick this point over here. And then if we pick this point over here, and if we pick this as our last point, so now we have a plane in this direction. If we construct with this plane, what we're doing is we're still drawing the rectangle, right? But we're drawing it long ways. So we're going to do our line over here. Say this is one, we're going to do the same trick of projecting. So we want this shape, these shapes in here. Okay, quiet please. So we have these shapes over here, and now we can click, we're going to click the middle actually. We'll click the middle, and the middle will go to here. And so when we make our balsa wood, what's the dimension of a balsa wood? 5 by 5, right? So when we make it, we can actually press the offset. And if we press offset over here, this is the middle of the balsa wood. So how far are we in one direction? 2.5, yes, 2.5. And we press OK. And then we'll do another offset over here. This one will be minus 2.5. Okay. And then, well, we're going to close off this piece here. And I deliberately made a mistake here, which you'll fix up when you do yours. See the problem we have here? Right? You won't design your piece of wood like that, will you? No. No, you'll design your piece of wood perfect. But that's a problem. If we measure it from the center, we're going to miss out these edges, size-wise. So, but for the sake of this drawing, I'm going to leave that mistake in there. How I would do it, if you want to do it perfect, draw the piece from this corner to this corner and the top one. Yeah, but you've got to consider it's still diagonal. There's no way you can diagonally make a 5mm rod fit with a vertical 5mm rod because of Pythagoras theorem. It just won't work because it's why it looks a bit thin, sort of. We'll finish this sketch. We'll go back into 3D land. In 3D land, we can get this shape now. We can extrude it. We're going to extrude both of these shapes. Now, when we extrude them, they should extrude perpendicular. Yep. And 2.5 again, 2.5. We know that is the number for the distance. But it only goes off in one direction. So what we can do over here, in direction, let's just make it symmetric. So it's going to go through both sides. So now we're starting to get this piece of wood over here. Press OK. Cool. We got that part of the tower done. Now, we obviously need 3 parts of our tower done. So we need to do this 4 times. Now, this is one of the advantages of CAD. Once you've done it once, you can basically copy and paste. All right, once you've done the work enough times, you don't have to worry about it. Also, didn't have a chance to show you, but when we had this body here, because they're all linked together, they join together to be one body now. I'm going to show this one over here. We are going to need to do something. We're going to have to modify this sketch at the top here again. And we're going to need to make a circle. And the circle we're going to make will have to be based off this line. So we're going to need this circle over here. The reason we're going to need this circle is I want to get this shape and I want to copy it. So I'm going to press create. We are going to make, pattern. I'm going to make a circular pattern. And if I press this object, this is the body I want to copy. The axis I'm going to copy it around is this circle I just made over here. And if I press 4 copies, our tower's starting to get built now. Now we have 4 lengths of the tower. So that's where now you start to see you're starting to get some gains with Fusion because you can copy it. All right, so that is done. Now let's hide, what is this? Hide this, but we don't need this again. So now all we got to do is we have to start to do our cross members. When we do our cross members, we'll go to create sketch. Now I can either press this panel over here, or anytime there's a flat surface, you can also make that your sketching surface. It's like this shape over here. And now I can just draw my, I'm going to do these like really fast now. I can just draw my shape. 5. No, that's 160. This is 5. Cool. Enter. And I can also make this top one as well. I think I can actually copy it. Move and copy. I really like this shape. No, I can't move and copy. I'll just do it. And I'm also going to do my diagonal member as well. I'll do the same approach we did before. When I did this one, I need to connect it to the edge so it goes blue. So now I have all these shapes in here. I can press finish sketch. I can extrude them all at the same time. I can press extrude. I want this. I want this. And I want this. And the direction I want it, I don't want it to go this way. I want it to go the other way. So I'll do -5. And now I have this. And I can do the rest. I can copy it for the rest of them. I can do the same thing up here. And I can do the same thing. This diagonal member might be a bit tricky. We'll get to that one another time. But once I have this diagonal member, I can do the same thing. I can go to pattern. I can go and I can do a circular pattern. I can click this shape over here. Axis. If I show that circle, which I believe is sketch 7, if I go over here, press that circle, I can copy it, again, copy it 4 times, and then we got that. So that's how we're going to start building out the shape of our tower. Now, let's assume the tower's done, right? All the way through. You've done it. What's the purpose of Fusion? One, we can put into a testing. I'll show you how the testing goes next period. But what I'll show you this period is we can get this into orthographic projection, which is the good stuff. We can go, once we've saved it, Which class is this?
Y.
Y. So once I've saved it, I can then go design and I can go straight to drawing. Drawing from design. Press that. I say I want this, see everything's highlighted that I want to bring in. My paper size, A3. I press OK. And Fusion should automatically put it into a drawing for me. All right, so it loads up. Notice we've got stuff in the bottom. We've got the title block. As I'm dragging this around, I'm going to put this into my drawing. Before I click on the board, before I click on it, I'm going to start adjusting some things here. I don't want 1 to 5. I want like 1 to 2. And as I drag it, it shows there's my tower, 1 to 2. You don't really have to adjust any other settings, but I click this. Now when I click there, it should, if I press OK, going to make it look like an orthographic drawing now. Right? And then I can get it and I can project it. I can click this view and I can project it. Now, of course, it's symmetrical, so it looks the same, right? But I can also bring a view up, and if I made enough space, it should work. And then once we're done, I think we just press enter, and then it does those views. Notice everything's aligned. And if I say, oh, I want to change the location, I can drag it around a bit and maybe make it fit. But, okay, so you do that. Great for assessment tasks. We do orthographic drawings. But also, now I can press this dimension tool, all right? And I can click, can you stop? Now I have this dimension, so I know how long that piece has to be. This diagonal piece. Okay. This diagonal piece over here, I can do dimensions. And I can press this diagonal piece, and if over there, well, 183, but it actually goes longer on this side, right? So 190. So I know my piece, that's how long my piece will have to be when I cut it. These members over here, I'm not sure about these. I'll have to check on the other one. But you can get those dimensions in your drawing. And you can use it to start designing. For this diagonal member, orthographic projections are only good when it's something that's aligned with your face. Like those diagonal members, they go like into the page, right? So for those particular ones, we just go back to our original drawing, right? And we can also inspect these parts over here. We can press inspect, and then we can click like one of the axes over here. And it says over here, this member is 104.5. So if you're cutting it, you're probably going to do 105, right? But you can see the length of those members. That's something you're going to struggle with if you draw it yourself, because you're drawing like a 3D line that is like Pythagoras 3 times. It's a bit difficult. But in theory, if you've done your drawing here, if you liked it, you can then export it to PDF and you can put that into your reports. All right? Uh-oh.